In this video, I'm going to go over some of the things that you might not like when you move to Bangkok, Thailand. So, beautiful day here in Bangkok, and just going out, and I actually happened to notice the first main thing I wanted to discuss actually happens to be traffic. That is one of the main things that people tend to complain about here in Thailand. Their first time around, that is, if they don't have a general idea of what to expect when they're coming here. Now, not a lot of people come here with an international license and expect to drive, but even those people that just use public transportation systems and walk sometimes get relatively overwhelmed with the traffic here if they weren't raised or had never lived in some sort of large metropolitan area wherever they came from. Traffic like this is common. So this is actually the road that I live on. Lumpini Station is right in front of me, and the traffic here usually is fine, but every single day for a couple times throughout the day, like right now around noon, and then yet again later on between 4 and 6 p.m., the traffic gets backed up, sometimes in both directions, turns into an absolute chaotic traffic jam. And if you're not used to driving or just being in these types of traffic conditions, to some people it can be overwhelming, and to some people it can be annoying. To me, it doesn't bother me because I lived in Las Vegas, and in Vegas on a daily basis, traffic would get just like this, sometimes worse. So to me, it's not a big deal. But if it's your first time here and you've never had experience driving in large metropolitan areas or other countries, I would advise that you probably should use local public transportation systems, or even at least just take a taxi to get around, because you're probably going to get kind of annoyed driving in these conditions if you're not used to it. You know, a lot of these countries over here are really motorcycle dominant type of roadways, and you'll notice tons and tons of motorcycles, not only just on the road, but lane splitting, cutting in and out of traffic and stuff like that. And this can be really alarming to some people that are not used to it. That's one of the main things that people complain about the most. Now, if it's your first time in Bangkok, I would highly suggest that you use the public transportation systems, which I actually happen to be standing in front of one of the stations, Lumpini Station, which this gives you access to the MRT Blue Line. And these trains run throughout Bangkok, multiple different trains. It's definitely the best way to get around town. And there's other quick ways to get around town as well, like you have Grab, and you have the guys on the motorcycles with the orange vests. Taxis, if you are able to find a taxi that will actually utilize the meter, these are definitely the best ways to get around Bangkok. If you're coming from out west, America specifically, or even Canada, trust me when I say that these means of transportation, like the MRT line, the BTS SkyTrain, they blow anything that we have in America completely out of the water. In no way comparable. And if you use these systems, you will definitely learn to appreciate them and actually miss them when you go back home. So right now we are walking into Lumpini Park. Happens to be just a few minute walk from my apartment. And the weather here today is phenomenal, absolutely beautiful, which is another thing that I want to go over that some people complain about, the weather. It's understandable depending on your point of view, but I mean, some people that potentially never have been exposed to a hot, tropical, and humid climate may come here for the first time and be like, my God, this is exhausting. And I've brought people over here before that definitely got wore out pretty quick, not being used to the heat or humidity. And some people absolutely hate it, and some people learn how to get kind of accustomed to it, and eventually it's not a big deal anymore. I've lived in so many different parts of the United States before I started coming over here, and I've lived in pretty much every different type of climate. I was born and raised in Minnesota, where you can get some warmer, humid days in the summer, and in the winter you can get some brutally cold days as low as 20 below, and then add wind chills on top of that. But from there I moved to Birmingham, Alabama for a while, where the temperatures and humidity would be relatively similar to what you experience here. I also lived in Florida, which again is very similar to here. But besides that, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it was very dry and significantly hotter than here. And I've lived in Alaska, where it was cold, lots of snow, and even parts of the year, lots of rain, which you experience here in Bangkok. So over the last 30 years, I've been exposed to pretty much all different sorts of weather patterns. So coming here, I had a pretty general idea of what to expect the first time I came here. And I'm totally fine with it. I can run 5 miles in a 90-degree humid day and not have any issues, while at the same time somebody else potentially can't even walk up to 7-Eleven from their apartment without feeling exhausted and hot and sweating. So this all comes down to who you are and kind of what you've had experience with over the years as to whether or not the weather is going to be problematic for you. But I wouldn't shy away from coming here. I would just do some research and try to determine which part of the year is best for you and come at that time of the year. So anyways, now that we got that covered, let's move on. We're gonna walk down the street a little ways to one of Bangkok's newest malls. Super beautiful, first class, amazing mall, right? Just down the street from my home. There's actually 2 new malls right here within a short walking distance of each other, but that's gonna push us into our next topic. So let's make our way down the street. So we reached our next destination, One Bangkok. This is an absolutely phenomenal, beautiful mall here in Bangkok, relatively new. Not only that, there's another one just down the street, the Central Park Mall. When you come to Bangkok, there's so many amazing places to shop, it's mind-blowing. These malls are so far ahead of what we have in America, it's crazy. I actually used to live an hour from the Mall of America, which was probably one of the more impressive malls in America for years. And these places blow it away. It's uncomparable. Now, there's still some cool places to shop in America, but I'm telling you, nothing compares to what they have here. Now, the reason I decided to come to the mall is to cover cost of living. And yeah, that doesn't necessarily sound like it adds up, but it does. There's so many different factors to take into consideration when it comes to the cost of living, including accommodation prices, where you choose to eat, and where you choose to shop. A lot of the people come to Thailand and they're under the impression, after watching some videos on YouTube, that they're going to be able to live for $1,000 a month or less. And this may be the case depending on you and the choices you make, but a lot of people come here and they make all the wrong choices. They tend to book their accommodations through some of the worst platforms like Airbnb, which many of these places you can stay at through Airbnb, you can find on Booking for half the price. Not only that, but if you reach out to some of the local agents or some of the people that manage these properties, you can get it for even less. And that's exactly what we do. So to get to the point on the cost of living topic, a lot of people complain when they come to Bangkok because they're under the impression that they're gonna probably live for almost nothing. And yeah, this is possible, but it's all up to the choices you make. So it starts off with, where are you gonna stay? If you want to stay in the city center, the heart of Bangkok, where all the crazy action is going on, well, you're probably going to have to expect to pay significantly more in rent than somebody like me that tries to get away from that area. Not only because the rent here is 10% of what I would pay potentially in that area, but it's more peaceful here and quieter. So that's kind of number one. Where are you going to stay? Are you going to pay more to stay 5 minutes down the road, or are you going to pay significantly less to stay somewhere a lot cheaper? Not only that, but also the stuff you eat. A lot of people come here and they're too shy to go into these small, local, little family owned and operated Thai restaurants where the menus are in Thai. It's all traditional Thai food. It can be a little intimidating walking into a restaurant like that when you also have the option to walk into a Western influenced, more modern day restaurant that potentially has an English menu. But you have to also keep in mind that you may be able to get a decent meal at that little family owned and operated restaurant, a good meal for 50 baht, that if you go to that other restaurant and get something comparable, it could cost you like as much as 200 baht. So be smart, you know, balance out your accounts every couple of days, go through your spending habits and make sure that you're not developing bad habits, and just have a good time and try to live a life where you have what you need, but you're not accumulating too much. Now, another thing that some people get frustrated over or not a huge fan of are the visa requirements and the length of stay opportunities. A lot of the longer term visa requirements are out of reach for the vast majority of people on Earth. So a lot of people can't even acquire a long-term visa because they don't meet the minimum savings requirements or the minimum monthly income requirements. And so they're basically stuck with these 60 plus 30-day visa-free options if they even qualify for that. There is some countries that have some short-term, you know, tourist visa options that would be relatively easy to qualify for. But those of you that are interested in staying over here for longer periods of time, some of you get frustrated because you don't qualify for a visa that you think is long enough for the stay that you would like to stay here for. Some of you want to stay here for potentially 2 years and you just don't meet the requirements. And I can understand why that would be frustrating, but I mean, realistically, I think people should come over here for 30, 60, or even 90 days visa-free up front first, kind of get a general idea of what things are like here more long-term instead of like a 1 or 2 week vacation, because that's never going to give you a good understanding of what it's actually like to live here long-term, because those shorter periods of time, 1 or 2 weeks, generally don't give you an idea of what you can expect in terms of expenses and kind of what you could expect when it comes to actual things to do. Well, we're just getting back to the house, so let's go see what Duangdi's doing. So Duangdi's hungry, I'm hungry, we're gonna get a bite to eat, and then I'll jump onto the next topic before I wrap up this video. So we're gonna go down to our favorite place just down the street here. It's like a half a block from our door. So traffic is a little starting to turn into that late afternoon rush hour here, so anyways, yeah, that was spicy. Holy buckets. I put a lot of spice in that. Oh man, and that lingered for a while. So, but let's get on to our next point, pollution. You know, it's a relatively small handful of people that typically have problems with this, but in Thailand, the pollution can actually be pretty bad at times. Vehicle emissions, industrial activities, and seasonal architectural burning contribute to some relatively significant pollution numbers. Other contributing factors like improper waste management, deforestation, and agricultural expansion also don't do it any favors. Now, the worst times of the year for pollution would be the smoky season between January and April. But like I said, a lot of people aren't even fazed by this or notice it at all. Only some people are actually sensitive to pollution. And I guess a good way to try to handle that would be to wear a mask. As much as you may potentially not want to, it definitely can help. But another thing you can do is just try to plan your trip around times of the year when the pollution is typically on average significantly less. Now, the last thing I really want to cover in this video, there's multiple other things that people complain about here and there and stuff like that, but the last thing that I want to cover that a pretty large percentage of people that actually drive come across at some point in time, eventually, actually pretty quick too, is the traffic laws and the enforcement, especially towards foreigners. So if you come to Thailand and you want to ride a motorcycle or even drive a car, you need to get an international driver's license. And if you plan to ride a motorcycle, you need to have a motorcycle endorsement from wherever it is that you come from, wherever you're a resident of. So if you came from the United States of America, you'd have to have a motorcycle endorsement and the international driver's license. Also wear a helmet. Those are the three main things that they go after. But a lot of people get super irritated by the Thai police because their practices in many situations seem to be pretty unfair. Now, I've seen a pretty decent change in this over the last, say, 6 months or so, but I would notice a couple years ago a lot of this where they would set up these motorcycle checkpoints and they would specifically look for somebody that looked like a tourist. And those would be the people, even if they were abiding all the laws, they would flag them down to check all their documents and ensure that they're not breaking any laws. But at the same time, a local, an obvious local, would fly by speeding, no helmet, and actually a really large percentage of locals are not even licensed to ride or drive a motorcycle in Thailand. And so you would see the police let those people fly right on by. And a lot of people that come here for the first time, they notice this right away, especially if they're obviously the ones driving a motorcycle, and they get super infuriated by it because they feel like it's almost racist to an extent, like they're specifically being picked out because of the way that they look. And I'm going to be totally honest, that is 100% the way that it is with certain officers, but not everybody. And lately I've been seeing these motorcycle stops where the police aren't just specifically picking tourists. If they see somebody that isn't wearing a helmet, they're gonna stop you. Even if you're a Thai person, they don't care. They're stopping everyone that they can stop. I think they're getting a lot more strict on motorcycle laws across the board. So at the end of the day, the thing is all these things that potentially you may come here and you might not like, or somebody else may come here and they may not like, and maybe they complain online about it. It's all stuff that you have control over. Like the amount of money that you spend, you are the one with your money, nobody else. So whatever you spend, that's up to you. You know, you can teach yourself like, hey, I need to budget. Like, this is what I'm gonna spend, and If I feel like I want to waste money on other additional things, I need to cut myself off, because like I said, whatever you spend, you chose to spend it. You could end up spending $5,000 a month, or you could end up spending $800 a month. It's up to you. As well as, you know, like the experiences on motorcycles and in traffic. These are all things that you have control over. All of these bad experiences that people typically complain about when they come to Bangkok are things that you personally have control over, and you can do something about it to make the experience better. It's not anybody else's fault. I mean, if you don't like large metropolitan areas with tons and tons of people and traffic, then you probably shouldn't come to Bangkok. Maybe you should opt to go to a less traffic, you know, less people area of Thailand, or maybe even potentially somewhere else. But if you're aware of the way things are here and you choose to come here, then it's up to you to make the best of it and make sure that you're having the best possible time, you know, and making memories that will last forever, instead of working yourself up over little things that nobody else can do anything about anyways. Obviously in life you're gonna cross paths with people that may potentially ruin your day, but it's up to you, again, to move on from those things and find something else to put your attention into to make your day better. And that's it. That's the answer to life, is, you know, doing the right things and doing what's best for you to make sure that you get the best out of everything, and stop focusing on the negative and focus on the positive. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you have any ideas of videos, any topics you want covered, let me know in the comment section below. I definitely will jump on that right away. I hope to see you again for the next video. I have some ideas in mind. We have some cool places that we want to visit. So videos are going to be coming, drop. Hopefully 2 videos per week. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.